New Orleans signed C.J. Spiller for something other than sitting on the fucking bench.
31 other passes that should have been intercepted with you.
So that's why I have David Johnson on my board higher.
If you're doing a live draft, wait till you're drunk to draft this guy. We welcome you to the Fifth Down.
What up, Fifth Downers? This is the Fifth Downfall Podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Slope. I got my partner in crime. We also got a special guest today, David Evans from the First and Five. Introduce yourself.
Hey, how's it going? Happy to be on the podcast today.
Yeah, greatly appreciated. We got a pretty good show today. We're just gonna go through all the matchups, who we like, who we don't like. We're just gonna spout it off. So we were supposed to have another guest on as well. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to make it. Maybe at another time. Let's just guys want to just jump right into it.
Yeah, let's do it.
I was gonna go over Green Bay and Jacksonville this week. It seems like a pretty interesting matchup. I think that Green Bay probably has a little bit of an edge. Who are some of the players you like on the offensive side of the ball? We got Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, he gets to go against a defense that's they tried to improve mightily over the off season. They still have some holes. We got Devin House going against his old team. I don't know how he's going to match up against if he's going to be against Nelson or Cobb, but I'm really not too worried about the corners over there in Jacksonville going against these wide receivers. I think that Aaron Rodgers is going to have a field day tomorrow.
The only concern I have, for one of my big starts, with his upside, you have to start him, is Jordy Nelson, obviously. But there's been talk they're going to limit his snaps, kind of put him on a route/snap count this weekend, so that is something to watch for. But I think if you do have Jordy on your team, you have to start him no matter what. Would you agree with that?
For where you had to get him in the draft, it would be kind of hard to sit him, although I'm not as high on it after that news. But you got to think he's still going to get some play in the red zone. That's really where he's excelled over the years, and especially down the field. It'll be kind of interesting to see how much of that speed he has left after that ACL tear. I think I kind of like Cobb in this game, to be honest.
Yeah, I was going to say it seems a little more like a Cobb game to me than a Nelson game.
Yeah, hopefully defenses have learned to defend the post route from Nelson because that was what he ate on in 2014. But, yeah, I think Cobb definitely sounds like a high-volume play this week, and Nelson may be more of the red zone touchdown guy that you're banking on. And even Jared Cook, I think, can make an impact in the red zone in this game. So I like pretty much everybody on that Packers offense, even if that Jaguars defense has improved this year.
Well, Jacksonville was pretty bad at defending the tight end last year. According to Football Focus, they were like 27th against tight ends last year, so I think that is an area of the field where they could expose that Jacksonville defense. On the other hand, though, you don't really know, who's the actual starter in Green Bay? Is it going to be Rodgers? Is it going to be Cooks? From the GM, they said that it's going to be Rodgers for now and the foreseeable future, so I want to see kind of how they use it. Maybe they'll use a little bit of two tight end sets.
Very, very, very good. But another thing, though, you got to figure in this game is, how does Lacy factor in? I like to think that Jacksonville now has a better front seven. So, do you think that bodes well for Lacy? Because I'm not really liking Lacy a whole lot in this matchup. But we're hearing reports of a slimmer Lacy, so maybe. But I think the red zone work in this game probably goes to Jordy Nelson. He was saying maybe Jared Cook, maybe a little bit of Richard Rodgers. So I don't know. How do you feel like Lacy factors into this game?
I think Lacy will be just fine, actually. Jacksonville made a lot of improvements, but I think they're still right there in the middle of a package in terms of a front seven. I think that Lacy will be able to find some room over there.
Yeah, I agree.
Touchdown?
Yeah, I can see him scoring a touchdown for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think if they get inside the 5, they're just going to pound the rock with Lacy, and unless he gets stuffed a couple times in a row, then I think it's Cook, Rodgers, Nelson, one of those guys.
Very good.
You got Ivory and Yeldon. I think that they might be all right. Green Bay has more of a middle of the road front seven as well, but I think that Jacksonville's gonna be playing from behind, which like normal. So I think BB's going to have a lot of volume in this game. I think Allen Robinson's going to excel in this game. He's probably going to draw coverage from Sam Shields. He's not a bad corner, but I just feel like Allen Robinson really isn't like a wide receiver that's easy to deal with. It seems like he's almost matchup proof most weeks. So I think that in terms of the Jacksonville passing game, I think that I could conceivably see Blake going over 300 yards, a couple of scores. It wouldn't surprise me if he threw a couple of interceptions, though, as well.
Yeah, when Jacksonville plays from behind, you typically always have a productive game from Blake Bortles and Allen Robinson because they just like to throw that deep rock. And, so I think if Jacksonville is playing from behind like we tend to see from all of last season, I think that this is a game where we could see Allen Robinson have a very productive game. Even though he does draw a tough corner in Sam Shields, I think that he still has a nice fantasy week. He's in my top 10 this week.
Oh, without a doubt. Is there any other aspects or points you want to touch on this game? Either you guys?
I think another thing, too, look for Chris Ivory in the red zone. I don't like T.J. Yeldon in this game. He's a definite fit for me. I don't like the way he's trending. I think that if there is any red zone work, the only reason I say start Ivory in this game is just because of the red zone work. I think that he's a good bet to get one touchdown for me in this game.
Yeah, that's the trickiest thing about Week 1 is trying to figure out how this backfield is going to play out. In PPR, I do think that the Jaguars will be behind, so I think T.J. Yeldon may get some good pass game work, but it's definitely a risky play if you have to start him. But definitely Chris Ivory in the red zone. I think if they can get there, he's a prime candidate for a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, if you had to start one of those running backs, I would probably start Ivory, but I would advise against starting either. I really think that you shouldn't be in a position where you have to start either running back. But if I had to lean more towards the running back in this game, probably Ivory. Although I do agree that I think Yeldon will catch a couple of passes out of the backfield.
Agreed. Next matchup.
All right, so next one I got up on this list is Baltimore and Buffalo. This is a game where I actually think that it could be go either way, despite how bad Baltimore was last year. But I think I am leaning a little bit more towards Buffalo in this game. They got one of the better offensive lines. Baltimore is more of the middle of the pack in terms of defensive lines. I think that McCoy will have a lot of room to run out there, a lot of room to roam, if you say. Who do you like on this Buffalo offense this week?
Sammy Watkins for me is a must start, really. I think that they're going to go to him early in offense, although I'm interested to see how he looks after the foot injury over the offseason. But for me, him and McCoy locked into my lineups.
I really I agree with you on the Sammy Watkins thing. I think he's the huge X factor in this game. I think that I'm hearing great reports that he is fully healthy. He's ready to go. He hasn't been limited in practice at all. I think that Sammy Watkins is I think that he's going to be the guy in this game. He is the start of this game for me. I also think that Tyrod Taylor is a nice sneaky play. There's other quarterbacks I like, obviously, more as far as matchups go, but I think that Tyrod Taylor is a good bet to throw for 250 yards. I like to see him throw about 2 touchdowns, maybe add one on the ground. So he's a sneaky play for me, too, just as I mentioned.
Are either you guys like in Charles Clay this week? It seems like Baltimore was actually pretty good against the tight ends last year. Do you think that he could be a factor in this game at all?
Depends if they utilize him or not. I mean, because last year he was heavily underutilized, so I guess the game plan will tell. That's what Week 1's good for.
Yeah, I had a very love-hate relationship with Charles Clay last year because it seemed like whenever I sat him, he went off, and whenever I played him, he was a dud. So I just way too many tight ends that I think have a higher floor than Clay this week, so I'll wait and see on him.
Yeah,
without a doubt. It seems like that's an offense where the passing volume doesn't tend to be there most weeks, or it's only like a one-guy show usually. So and that guy's obviously going to be Sammy Watkins most weeks.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, I think the biggest thing in this game for me is who is going to be getting the biggest share of targets on this Baltimore offense. I've been hearing reports that it's It might be Mike Wallace because, that's Joe Flacco's new favorite target. It's going to be Kamar Aiken. Is it going to be Steve Smith Sr.? I think that's the biggest thing. I would advise, if you could, against starting any of them and see who Joe Flacco targets. Would you guys agree, or do you guys have a favorite there?
I mean, this whole Baltimore offense is just one big question mark at running back, receiver, tight end. You really don't know who you can trust. I kind of want to just stay away from it all until you kind of figure out what's going on over there in Baltimore.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I want no part of anybody on that offense this week. Although I will be – have you guys heard if Rashad Perriman's set to play in the opener?
I heard that he is a questionable, so I doubt that he does play.
He did get in some reps in that fourth preseason game, though, so it wouldn't surprise me if he did suit up. I know that there's also a question mark about Steve Smith. I think if you are going to rely on a receiver over there in Baltimore, it still has to be Aiken or Wallace at this point.
I think if you do start somebody, I think the one with the safest floor is Aiken, in my opinion.
I mean, he is that one true possession receiver over there. I think I kind of like him more over, like I say, a boomer bust type of guy like Mike Wallace.
I mean, it's week one. If you can avoid him, just avoid him.
Yeah. Right on. Really, I kind of want another position I kind of want to stay away from altogether is the tight end position over there. We don't really know what's going on over there. You got Benjamin Watson tore his Achilles. You still got Crockett Gilmore, who's probably going to be the starter, you'd have to think. But I think that's definitely a sit. So I think we can just move on from that one. What do you guys say?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So next matchup is Chicago at Houston. I'm not sure if they're going to have the dome open or not. They might have some rain in the area, so they might close the roof on that one. Who do you have winning this game? I think it's going to be closer than people expect.
I mean, I think for me it's probably going to be the Texans, and I love Lamar Miller in this matchup because of how bad the Bears were against the run last year. And I think that the Texans are really going to want to let their new toy go out there and eat up yardage.
Absolutely agree. I think that Lamar Miller, as far as running backs go, is my start of the week. I think that you'll be very hard-pressed to find a better matchup, and I think that Lamar Miller goes off in this one. Absolutely agree.
I mean, despite the fact that Chicago did improve their front seven quite a bit in the offseason, I really do think that, yes, like you guys are saying, Lamar Miller should have a pretty good game. In the terms of the overall aspect of the game, it seems like I think that the Texans are going to just completely dominate both sides of the ball in terms of like their offensive and defensive line. And usually when you can control that, you're probably going to win the game. I think that Brock might actually be an interesting play too. I mean, Chicago was one of the worst teams in defending the pass last year, and now Brock gets to finally get the helm as a starting quarterback. I think that it's a really good first matchup for him. I mean, that might be a sneaky play as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think that he is in two quarterback leagues, especially. I think that he's a nice play this week, especially because of the defense he's playing. He's got all those weapons at his disposal. Very constant backfield led by Lamar Miller, so I don't see any reason why you can't start Brock Osweiler this week.
I mean, if you absolutely have to, I agree. Obviously, Hopkins, he's going to be his studly self. I don't really see a corner that can match up with him. The Texans don't really use their tight end very much. So we'll go over to the other side of the ball. You got Chicago. It looked like Langford was getting like every snap with the first team during preseason. It looks like he could be in line to be a 3-down back, but he does draw a pretty tough matchup. How do you guys feel about Jeremy Langford this week?
Well, I personally am very hesitant with him. I am not playing him unless he's like my last option. If I am playing him, it might be in the flex position. There's a lot of other guys that like more than we all know that Houston has a good run defense, so I don't think that he, for me, is a start unless you absolutely have to this week.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Flex at best for me, and especially since they've been talking up a committee all offseason. I mean, I do think Langford is the lead guy, and I think he'll have some good value throughout the rest of the season, but this game, definitely just too tough of a matchup.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think I can definitely get on board with starting him at like a flex position. I definitely wouldn't want him in one of my as my number one per se. I think the more interesting matchup is probably Jonathan Joseph. He probably would be covering Alshon Jeffrey. I think that's probably the most interesting matchup I want to watch during that game. I do think that Jeffrey could probably get the better end of the deal there. I would definitely put the green light on Alshon Jeffrey as a start. Not as big as a guy on a guy like Kevin White. I'm not really sure what to expect out of him. So I think it could just be like a one-man show over there in terms of receptions.
I think it will be as far as volume goes. I think that he's going to see the most volume out of anybody by far in the Chicago offense this season. And week one, I definitely give Alshon Jeffrey the green light.
Yeah, I think they'll be playing from behind most of the game, so they'll be passing, and he'll definitely be Cutler's number one option. And if they get in the red zone, they'll obviously look to Alshon Jeffrey. But I also like Zach Miller as kind of a sneaky play this week, mostly just because of how often I think they'll have to pass, where I think he can get a lot of those short targets underneath and maybe even some red zone work.
I'm glad you brought him up. I do have him as like a fringe tight end one this week. I think that he could definitely even possibly get into the top 10. I'm not going to say he's going to go that far, but I do like Zach Miller. I would say if you do have him on your roster and you say you have like a lesser guy, like maybe like I don't know, like a Witten or something like that, then yeah, I would definitely want to start Zach Miller over him.
Yeah, agreed. I'm glad that you guys brought him up. I think that he is a nice sneaky tight end one play this week. Well, what's the tight end one potential upside this week? Yeah.
All right. Our next matchup is kind of a boring one. It's Cleveland and Philadelphia. I'm not real high on either one of these teams this year. I actually think that this could be a sneaky game for Cleveland to steal a win week one. How do you guys feel about this game?
I think out of all the players on both sides of the ball in this game, I think that I like Ryan Matthews the most. I think that this is a very suspect Cleveland defense. I think he's going to take full advantage of it, assuming he doesn't get injured in week one, like we all know that he can. But yeah, I think that he's a good bet to get you a good amount of points this week. He's my start in this game.
Yeah,
I agree 100%. Sorry,
Cleveland probably has one of the worst defensive lines. I'm glad that you brought Ryan Matthews up. I'm pretty high on him this week. I think I had him ranked as high as 13th this week. I really think he's going to have a pretty good game.
Yeah, agreed. I think that he's already proven capable of working out of both sets, either under center, in the shotgun. I think that he's successful no matter what this week.
Yep, I agree. Like even though the Browns defense was okay against the run last year, they lost some people and they just looked terrible in the preseason. So I like Matthews. I also like Zach Ertz to probably be the security blanket for Carson Wentz since Jordan Matthews is just coming back off his injury, and Ertz is kind of, I think, going to be the number one target for him.
That's a good point. We know young quarterbacks always love those tight ends.
I mean, you also have Philadelphia actually has one of the better offensive lines, and they also like to throw the running back quite a bit. I think they were like third or fourth last year in running back targets. So maybe a guy like Sproles or Smallwood could jump in there and on third down and be kind of useful.
Yeah, I could see that happening. I wouldn't say that I'd start either of those guys, but I do think they are sneaky guys to watch out for.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, you always know every single week there's one guy that just blows the fuck up for no apparent reason. Nobody sees it coming. And then he's the guy that everybody's adding on the waiver wire on Monday. So there is that.
You just got to look for another back on that roster that's going to have to produce. I mean, it just can't be Ryan Matthews all year. I don't think he's durable enough to handle something like that. So I definitely think there's going to be another running back that's going to emerge on this team.
Agreed.
Yeah, I like Kenjon Barner as a sneaky stash in that backfield, but I don't think he'll have a huge week one role, but somebody to keep in mind that as waiver wires happen throughout the season.
Yeah, especially if you're in a deeper league, I'd really like Kenjon Barner in deeper leagues where you have like a deep bench. Like that's not a bad stash at all. You got Jordan Matthews. he's probably going to draw coverage from either probably Tremaine Williams. I know Joe Hayden's kind of fallen off over the years. So, I mean, I think that he'll definitely win his matchup. If you have to start him at the flex position, I kind of like that. Zach Ertz, I think he's a green light as well. I other than that, I don't really see a whole lot of other players in Philadelphia producing.
Something to keep an eye on, and just as a mention, last year, the only time Jordan Matthews even had as good games, really, it seemed, was when it was garbage time. And I think this is a game that Philadelphia ends up winning. And to me, Jordan Matthews hasn't really proven that he's very effective if it's not garbage time and they're getting a garbage touchdown. So I think, I could see him as a flex play this week, but young quarterback, inconsistent wide receiver. I don't really like the combination. If you have him on your team and he's probably your best option starting that flex, I don't think that he's drawing a really horrible matchup from, Cleveland's corners. But I don't like him unless you have to play him.
Yeah. Okay. If we're going to go to the other side of the ball, I think there is going to be a little bit of running room for Isaiah Crowell. It seems like Philadelphia's front seven is more towards the back half of the league than towards the front half of the league. So there could be some room if they keep that game close, which it very well may be. Gary Barnidge, I got him as a green light. Could start him. How do you guys feel about RG3 in his first start against the Philadelphia Eagles?
I personally don't think it's a bad draw. I think that he actually gets a pretty good matchup against I don't really know if I can make heads or tails of this Philly defense. I think they'll be a little bit better than they were last year, but I still think that RG3 has a lot of weapons at his disposal. He's got Duke Johnson, Isaiah Crowell. He's got Corey Coleman, who I really like personally. I want to see how he's utilized week one, but he's a guy I like going forward. And then Terrell Pryor. So, yeah, he's got a lot of weapons at his disposal, so I guess we'll see. But I like him. I wouldn't say start him, obviously, unless you're in a two-quarterback league, but I can see it.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen in the past he's got the upside because of his running ability to have one of those top 5 quarterback games, but it's definitely a risk throwing him out there week one with the Browns until we see, how they design the offense around him.
I think he's finally on a team where they're not going to handcuff him. They're actually going to let him just go out and just play how he likes to play. Like he likes to get outside the pocket. Let him do it.
Agreed.
All right. Our next matchup is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Tampa Bay fucking queers, as we like to call them, Atlanta Falcons. Who do you got winning this game? I think this is going to be a very tight game, down to the wire.
Yeah, this is tough for me. I'm going to say that, and the only reason I'm taking them is because they're at home. I'm taking the easy way out. I'm going to say the Falcons. Obviously, my guy in this game is Julio Jones. I think he'll be hard-pressed to find a better option in this game. And if you're lucky enough to have him on your team, I think that you're going to see just an insane week from him. I don't think this Tampa Bay defense is going to do much to stop him. So,
it'll be kind of interesting to see how they use Julio. If they try to move him around the formations, maybe they can get a mismatch because it does look like Tampa Bay is going to start a rookie corner. You got to see maybe if they're going to try to match Julio up on that rookie corner a few times and try to really do some damage down the field.
I mean, I think even if he draws Brent Grimes, we saw Josh Gordon make Brent Grimes look just terrible in preseason in Gordon's first football action in, 2 years? So I think Julio Jones is going to have a field day no matter who's covering.
Yeah, he's pretty much matchup-proof anyways. I kind of like to look at how I know they like to move him around, so that's why I brought that up. How do you guys feel about the other receiver in Atlanta? You got Mohamed Sanu, his first real action with the Atlanta Falcons. Do you think that maybe he could be a sneaky player, or you say just rather just leave him on the bench?
Leave him on the bench. Wait to see how he's utilized with Julio in the fold too, because he's a big question mark ever since he came over from Cincinnati. I think this week you sit him, see what kind of volume he's going to get, how many targets he's going to get. I don't see a start this week.
I agree 100% with that.
Yeah, I think Sanu is like a shitload of fuck, and I'd go even a step further and say don't leave him on your bench. Leave him on the waiver wire.
We know how you feel about him.
All right. I don't see any tight end production out of Atlanta this week. Let's go over to the other side of the ball. Oh, actually, I'm sorry, we didn't even touch on Devontae Freeman. You know, Devontae Freeman, he gets to run against probably one of the most suspect defensive lines in the league. I think that's where they're going to be utilized. Atlanta has a pretty good offensive line that, in terms of run blocking last year. I think that maybe he could start off how he started last year. It'd be really great.
Yeah, I think so. It's going to be interesting to see. I think this is one of the biggest question marks for me. One of the biggest storylines in the entire NFL this season is what's going to happen, because Kyle Shanahan has already said they're going to ride who's hot in that backfield. So that could be Tevin Coleman, that could be Devontae Freeman. So I think right now it's Freeman's job, obviously, but I think that he's on a shorter leash than he was last season. So it's going to be interesting to see. They ride the hot hand. Who's it going to be? So if you're a Freeman owner, I think you definitely have to have Coleman.
I'm pretty high on Freeman this week.
I like his matchup this week, definitely.
Yeah, I agree. Last year he had 10 receptions against the Bucs in one of their games. So I think, first game of this season, they're going to want to get the run game going early, and I think Freeman is going to be the guy to do that. So I think this week you definitely start him, but hopefully you do have Tevin Coleman on the bench just in case.
Yeah, there's a lot of assholes that say, you have Freeman, so now I'm going to take Coleman early.
Yep.
Now we can go over to the other side of the ball. We got Jameis Winston, Doug Martin, you even got Mike Evans. Who do you like the most out of this week?
I think it's obvious, Doug Martin. I think this Atlanta defense isn't scaring anybody. And I think that their Tampa's going to first go to establish the run game before they do anything, before they bomb it downfield. So they're going to establish that run game. And if Doug Martin remains effective all game, they won't have to throw too many passes downfield, or at least, I see this as a game where they're gonna want to really establish that run game. So I think that Doug Martin's an obvious running back one this week for me. He's also in my top 10 rankings this week.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I like Evans as well, even just for the red zone potential. He does draw probably Desmond Trufant, who's a good corner and fared well against receivers last year. But, Evans, Winston, and Martin this week I think could all have big games, and I think should be in most lineups.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that, Evans, too.
I know there's a lot of teams, especially when they're playing a division foe on the road, they do like to try to lean more onto that run game. So I'm really feeling Doug Martin this week. I do think that Mike Evans will get the better of Trufant. So I think that's another green light. Another interesting thing though is they got Cameron Brate, ASJ both as co-starters in that tight end position, and I want to see who gets the more of the snaps, because Atlanta was one of the poorer teams in defending tight ends last year. So I think that one of those tight ends, I don't know which one, is going to produce this week. So I kind of just want to stay away from it altogether, but I definitely want to keep my eye on it.
Agreed.
All right, so we got Minnesota, Tennessee. I think this is a potential low-scoring game. A lot of times the run game becomes pretty valuable. I think AP is going to run all over him, though, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's really hard to argue that narrative. And a lot of games where Minnesota's playing and, you got Sean Hill at quarterback, I mean, they're going to lean heavily on AP this week. So, I mean, he's an obvious play.
Yeah, I find it hard to start anybody else in that Vikings offense with Sean Hill at quarterback. So even though I like Diggs a lot this season and I think he'll have a role in fantasy value later on, I'm probably benching him week one.
Yep, I have to agree with that one. I'm not real big on either of these receivers as well. I'm not big on Rudolph. I know he's been kind of a letdown the past couple of seasons. He's thought of to be a guy that could be a dominant tight end, but we just haven't seen it since 2012 or 2013 or some shit like that. So I kind of want to stay away from that too. Tennessee, who do you think is going to get more carries? I'm kind of leaning towards DeMarco Murray, just for the fact that Derrick Henry is a rookie, although I can't see him mixing in there, especially late in the game when they're trying to pound the rock. I do think that Tennessee could walk away with this victory too, so there's another thing to look at.
Yeah, that is true. I like I like DeMarco Murray this week. Even though this is a tough Minnesota team, if you have to start DeMarco Murray, I would. But I think that out of the two backs, that kind of question, I think that DeMarco Murray this week, I think he's also going to be running with a little bit of a steam on his shoulders because, he's going to fend off Derrick Henry because everybody's been talking him up and he might lose his job and this and that. And he doesn't want to be irrelevant. So I think that he's going to put in a lot more effort than he did last year. But I don't like him this week. I think this is a tough matchup for him.
Yeah, I agree. I like Murray a lot this season. I think he'll definitely get the more volume, but that Vikings defense after that Week 1 game last year where Carlos Hyde ran through them, they were pretty stout against the run. So for me, Murray's more of an RB2 this week, maybe a flex play.
Yeah,
Agreed.
I definitely think that Minnesota probably has a top 10 defensive front. So I mean that's one negative that you can draw against both of them. I think what it's going to come down to is Minnesota has a pretty good secondary as well. You got Xavier Rhodes. He's going to probably draw coverage on the Rashard Matthews. I think he's going to shut him down. I think Sharp could be a sneaky play, though.
I agree. Very sneaky. I want to see more how the same thing with a lot of players in Week 1. I want to see how they're utilized first, so I'm not starting him unless absolutely necessary. But I don't like him season long this season. I think he's due for some regression, but I like Delanie Walker in this matchup. I think this is a Delanie Walker game for that Tennessee offense. I think if they do score a touchdown, I think he's going to be targeted at the red zone. Maybe DeMarco Murray sneaks a touchdown there, but you really got to look at this Tennessee offense. I think if I'm starting anybody, I'm looking at are they going to score a touchdown or are they not? And I think my guy this week is not really a sneaky play, but I think that Delanie Walker is my play for this team this week.
Yep, I agree with that. Even Mariota, if you're strapped for quarterbacks or something like that, because of his running ability, I could see him running one in if they get into the red zone, but still not somebody I feel comfortable starting.
Absolutely.
I kind of like Mariota more as my second quarterback, but I mean, like if you're one of those guys that likes to wait real late for a quarterback, and he is your starter, I think that he's not going to hurt you too much. I do agree with Delanie Walker. I think not only this game, I think all year long he's going to be their leading receiver. He just is. Tennessee's receivers I think are a little bit butt compared to like the rest of the league. So I think Delanie Walker is going to be a fine start, not only this week, but this year as well. So,
well, agree to disagree on that one, but I do like him for this week.
All right. So, is there anyone else you want to mention, or can we move on?
Let's move on.
All right. Cincinnati is going on the road against the Jets. I really think that this is going to be a slugfest. It very well may be a Jeremy Hill game, although I'm kind of leaning more towards Gio. Which running back are you liking more in this game, guys?
I think this has got Gio all over it. I think that the Jets boast one of the better front sevens in the entire league, and I think that Jeremy Hill is going to have a hard game running the ball. I don't really see him having a lot of touchdown upside this week. I think that Gio gets leaned on because of his ability in the passing game. And I could see Gio walking away with a touchdown this week, so I think that he's got more upside than Hill this week.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think, that Jets defense is tough, and, if you're starting Hill, you're hoping for a touchdown or two, but I think Gio is definitely the safer play and also the higher upside just because how dynamic he is.
I think Gio has a safer floor and a higher ceiling. Although I do think that I kind of disagree with Jeremy Hill. I think that he has a better chance of getting a touchdown than Gio. But an interesting stat, I don't think there was a single game last year where both running backs had a touchdown. So that's another thing or a rushing touchdown. So that's another thing to keep in mind. How do you guys feel about A.J. Green being on Revis Island? Do you think he's going to get the better of him?
Well, where you had to draft A.J. Green, I think you're obviously going to have to start him. I mean, unless you really are going for super upside this week or something like that. I would start him from where you had to get him in the first round or second round. But I don't like him this week. I don't think that he has all that productive week. I think that he sees the targets definitely because he doesn't really have to share them with anybody. But I don't know. He's kind of a stay away from me type thing.
Yeah, like in a daily format, would not be starting A.J. Green at all, but I think, like you said, where you drafted him, you got to have him in your lineup, especially since he has the upside to have that one big player that's 1 or 2 touchdowns.
Agreed.
Hey, I think Revis is going to hold him down a little bit, but I don't think he's going to hold him down to the point where A.J. Green's going to completely hurt you if you do start him. Obviously, like you both said, that you pretty much have to start him from where you drafted him. But I don't think he's going to hurt you as bad as what you think. I don't think he's going to get completely shut down. And he does have that touchdown upside and the opportunity to take a bomb. So there's that too. We got no tight end to speak of for Cincinnati this week. The Jets don't use their tight end, so we'll go over to their running game. You got Matt Forte and Bilal Powell against the middle-of-the-road like defensive line. Do you like either one of these running backs in this game? I think I'm kind of leaning more towards Powell.
Yeah, I like Powell as a sneaky play this week. I think that he definitely sees some work this week, and I think that Matt Forte better be really running this season and not get injured, because I think that Powell's nipping right at his tail, and I think that he could potentially steal some starter reps, maybe even the starting job from him. He's a nice bench stash too. I love that as a bench stash. But yeah, I actually like Powell in this matchup. I think that he sees some passing down work, and we all know that he can do damage in limited time frames.
For me, I think I want to stay away from both of them unless I absolutely have to start one for this week, just to see how that timeshare plays out. But it definitely is a concern with anybody who owns Forte, how much they'll probably use Powell. We saw it last year with Chris Ivory, and I think it'll be more of the same this year, if not a larger role for Powell.
You know, the thing with Forte is that, yeah, it's good that, well, I guess it's not really good, but it's good that Kerry Robinson is no longer on the team, because he's probably going to be that first in line for the goal line carries. But the thing is, he's not very good on the goal line. So I think that Powell's actually going to steal a lot of third down work away from him in this game too. So that's why I'm kind of leaning more towards Powell in this game. All right. We got Brandon Marshall, Eric Decker. Who do you think is going to have – do you think they can both have a chance to get a touchdown? It seemed to happen quite often last year.
Yeah, I think so. I'm not too high on these Cincy corners. I think that Eric Decker is my better bet for red zone work, because, you know, they don't utilize the tight end in New York to speak of. So I think that I like Eric Decker more to get a touchdown this week, but I do think that both are good plays.
Yeah, I like them both. Marshall, I think, has the higher upside just because of his trust with Fitzpatrick, but I think both of them are going to have a big role, and both could walk away with a touchdown in this one.
I mean, I got them both ranked pretty close together. I think that you can't go wrong if you have one of these guys in your team. You're gonna start them, you know. So the question is, though, how good is Fitzpatrick going to be? Is he going to be as good as last year? I really don't think so. I think his conditioning probably took a hit with that holdout. So that's another thing that I want to keep an eye on in this game. Yeah, I think that pretty much sums that game up.
Yeah.
I think one of the more juicier games in terms of fantasy football this week is going to be Oakland and New Orleans. It's going to be a close game, I think, but I think ultimately the Saints are going to pull this one out on the road or at home. I really like Drew Brees. He's probably like my start of the week for quarterbacks. Derek Carr's right up there with him too. So how do you guys feel about this game?
Oh, I love it. I think it'll be a high-scoring affair. I think that, yeah, absolutely. I think that I totally agree with you on Drew Brees. I think that it's going to be a nice shootout. I think that he's going to be the best quarterback this week as far as fantasy goes. He typically likes to win those shootouts at the Superdome. So we'll see. But, yeah, he's definitely start of the week. Same thing with Derek Carr. You're going to be hard-pressed to find a better quarterback matchup this week.
Yeah, I think I like pretty much everyone on both of these offenses. This seems like it could be a repeat of that Giant Saints game from last year, where it was just a shootout. But
like
yeah, both quarterbacks
team had like over 50 points.
Yeah, I like both quarterbacks. I like Latavius Murray and Mark Ingram, and the receivers on both sides of the ball, tight ends even. It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
I think the running back I like the most in this game is Latavius Murray, because Oakland has a really improved offensive line, and we all know how bad the Saints are on pretty much the whole defense.
Yeah,
So I got Latavius Murray as my start of the week as well. So.
Yeah, I think he's a nice play. I do want to hear, though, because we do have a budding tight end in Oakland named Clive Walford. Do you guys see him being a factor this week?
I think just because of how high scoring of a game it's expected to be, he's a decent bet for a touchdown. I'm not as high on him for the whole season as a lot of people are, but I think in this game, this is probably one of the better matchups he's going to have all season, so might as well throw him out there if you don't have a safer option or somebody you feel more comfortable starting.
I mean,
Okay.
New Orleans was actually the worst team against tight ends last year. So, I mean, like you guys said, I'm not real big on Wolford this year, but I do think that pretty much anyone in this game has a chance of getting a touchdown. So you really can't go wrong. Although you shouldn't have Wolford as like your starter. You probably have somebody else, but he definitely has a great matchup. How you feeling about some of these second receivers, though? Because they both teams have pretty viable options at second receivers. I mean, you got Crabtree, you got Snead and Michael Thomas. Do you think any one of these guys could potentially break out in this game?
I like Crabtree. I think that he has more of a target share. Because, Breeze likes to spread the ball around, but I think that Derek Carr, he loves his Amari Cooper and Crabtree. So I think that I like Crabtree in this game.
Yeah, I like Crabtree the most of the number 2 receivers, but I think Snead is a candidate to have maybe even up to 7 catches, 80 yards, and maybe a touchdown because of Michael Thomas nursing an ankle injury. So I think in this game, Snead could be a decent flex play in PPR.
Yeah, there was a nice stretch last year where Snead was very valuable and useful. So I mean, I think this is going to be a game where Snead's going to see more of like the 2 receiver sets. So I think I'd have to go with him over Michael Thomas. Like you said, he's nursing an ankle injury. But I think one of the more interesting plays on that offense is Coby Fleener. I mean, he's been having trouble with the playbook, and he doesn't seem to be on the same page as Drew Brees. But Oakland was another team that was pretty bad against tight ends, so I think that maybe this is a game that could get him on track for the season.
Yeah, the
definitely
upside
agree.
is definitely there. Sorry.
All right. You got San Diego, Kansas City. I think that this is a game where San Diego is going to be playing from behind. I think that even though they're playing a tough Kansas City defense, you're going to have a lot of volume for guys like Phillip Rivers and Keenan Allen, maybe even Travis Benjamin on a couple of deep shots. How do you guys feel about the San Diego offense against this tough defense?
I mean, I don't like Keenan Allen. He's pretty much matchup proof to me when healthy. And I don't know about Phillip Rivers. He's kind of a gray area for me, but I think that I like the most out of this game is Keenan Allen. Phillip Rivers loves those short dump-offs. He's a possession receiver. So I think that he definitely gets the volume and especially the targets this week to be effective.
Yeah, and I think with how good this Chiefs defense is, especially in the pass rush, I could see Danny Woodhead getting a lot of dump-off passes. I don't think he's going to be as good all season as he was last year from a fantasy perspective, but I think in this game, he could be the security blanket for Phillip Rivers.
I totally agree with that.
It's interesting to note that with those first 4 games of Kansas City last year, their defense is actually pretty inconsistent. There's I think 3 or 4 games where they gave up over 400 total yards of offense to begin that season. It wasn't until about week 6 or 7 that they finally got everything clicking and they went on that winning streak. So I mean, that's another thing to look at because I mean, it looks like on paper they have a pretty good defense, but they at times they were kind of inconsistent in the beginning of the season.
That's true. That's a good point. And also, for a similar reason as Woodhead, I like Antonio Gates this week for that and also his red zone ability.
I think that Gates is more of a touchdown dependent play this week because Kansas City was pretty good at defending the tight end. But I do think that he does have a lot of red zone appeal, like you were saying. I could see him getting a line, kind of 4 catches, 40 yards, and a touchdown.
Yeah, I can see that happening too. It's definitely not out of the realm. One of my biggest question marks this week is I've been hearing so many rave reviews about Melvin Gordon. Do you guys see him being a factor in this matchup? I'm not seeing it. personally, just because, like we said, this is a tough Kansas City defense. They have a great pass rush. So I don't know. But I do like Melvin Gordon season long. I think he's going to have a much improved season over his disappointing rookie season, but I'm not really too high on him in this matchup.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I like him as a breakout guy for the season, but I don't feel comfortable starting him this week because, the Chiefs had one of the better run defenses for fantasy purposes last year. And, that was even with a 4-touchdown game against the Bengals. So, yeah, I'm staying away from Gordon this week.
I mean, the way you have to look at it kind of is there's really nowhere to go for Melvin Gordon but up. But I think he's going to stay down in this game. I have him as a sit. I think this is more of a Danny Woodhead type of game. Like you're saying, he's going to get a lot of dump-offs. And you really haven't seen Melvin Gordon utilized too much in the red zone last year. So I think that maybe that can continue this year, maybe at least for the early portion.
Absolutely agree.
Obviously, Jamal Charles is probably not going to start or play week 1. Everyone's been raving on Spencer Ware. How do you guys feel about Spencer Ware against this suspect defense? Do you think there's a chance that maybe he can even get 2 touchdowns?
Well, I actually have just heard reports that it might be more of a timeshare than we're thinking between West and Ware. So I think, that gives me a big red flag for Ware because at first, during when I was drafting my teams, I was targeting Ware in a lot of them, but now it sounds like it's going to be more of a – because Andy Reid, I think, said the other day that they're going to utilize both backs. So, and Niall Davis, too. So I think this is a confusing conundrum at running back, and I think it's just better to stay away altogether if you can avoid it. But I think if you do have to start one this week, it would be Ware.
Yeah, I think even if they split carries between the 20s, Ware's going to be the goal line guy, and so that's why you would start him over West. But, yeah, I'd prefer to stay away from both since we don't really know how it's going to play out. I mean, West did have the job last year before he got hurt. And then it was Ware, and then it was a timeshare. So it's kind of very murky until Charles comes back. And even then.
Well, West is kind of dealing with his own injury issues right now. It does look like he's going to play, but he's kind of dealing with his own injury issues. I could see this potentially being like a Ware Niles Davis game. Maybe they're he kind of plays third fiddle to both of those guys. I do like you guys said, Ware inside that red zone. I think he does have a chance for at least 1 touchdown, maybe even 2.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting.
Another good play is Travis Kelce. San Diego was 24th against defending the tight ends. I think that he could potentially be like a top 3 guy this week.
Yeah, I think I had him ranked at either 3 or 4 this week. I'd have to double check, but I do like Kelce this week. Kelce. I think that he's a good bet to get a touchdown. I think that he's going to be targeted in the red zone. It's a low volume passing offense. Yeah, I like him. I think that if you have him, you definitely start him.
Yeah, I agree. He's one of the safer tight end plays, particularly this week. I mean, the Chargers did defend him pretty well last year, but, he's with his athletic ability, he's a threat to take any play to the house or just be a red zone target. All
right. This is another note. I do think that Alex Smith could be a nice little streamer option if you're one of those guys who likes to stream quarterbacks. But we'll move on. We got Miami at Seattle. This is a nightmare matchup if you're trying to establish your new offense. I'm not really liking a whole lot of players in Miami this week. I think Tranny Hill is going to be pretty bad. I know it's not the same Seattle defense of the past, but I mean they still got Chancellor, they still got Sherman, Wagner, that great defensive line. I just don't see a whole lot of production coming out of Miami this week.
Yeah, I think the only. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. You got it.
Okay. I was going to say I think there's only one player that I do think gets some volume this week for Miami, and that's Jarvis Landry. I think that everybody else is a sit for me.
Yeah, 100% agree. Even though Foster seems like he's going to be the workhorse, there's not a great matchup for him. That Dolphins offensive line still isn't that great. So if I'm starting anybody on that Miami offense, it's Landry. I 100% agree.
I mean, apparently Ajayi is pissed off that he's not the starter and he's not even making the trip to Seattle. So it looks like Foster is going to be a 3-down back this week. But like I said, I'm really not liking his matchup. I have him as a sit. Landry, it's going to be kind of interesting to see if where is Sherman going to play, because I know typically he plays on like one side of the field, but it doesn't look like they're trying to move him around a little bit during the preseason. It'd be kind of interesting to see if he does line up with Landry in the slot. So it's definitely something to keep your eye on. I got Landry right on like a 5 or 6 catch game. So he's not a terrible play. I'm just not as high as him as I would normally be.
Well, and I think that even if he does draw a lot of Sherman, it's those quicker, shiftier slot guys who have had more success against the Seahawks than, the typical number one receivers. So, while it's not a great matchup for him, I think he'll do okay.
That's a great point. I mean, even remember when Keenan Allen just completely embarrassed Richard Sherman. So, I mean, he does tend to struggle with some of those smaller, shiftier guys. That's a really good point to bring up.
Yeah, very, very good. Now, on the other side of the ball, I think that this is a plethora of options for you. I think that Doug Baldwin's a definite start if you have him. I'll go into him later, but I think I like, especially for Daly, I like Christine Michael. He's getting a start this week, and I think he's a good bet to get a touchdown this week. And I also like him. I think that this is a game where Seattle's going to be playing from ahead most of the game, so I think that Michael could see an upwards of 20 carries.
Yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with Christine Michael as well, but I think this week he's definitely a high upside play.
I mean, I'm kind of like, I don't have any shares of Christine Michael, so I'm not really worried about it, but I think that's kind of a position I kind of want to stay with from Seattle until I totally, figure it out. They got, I think Baldwin's probably going to, Baldwin out of the receivers, I think Baldwin's obviously going to be like the best play. I think, I'd rather have Russell Wilson because you really don't know who's going to break out of those receiving corps. So I think Russell Wilson's actually going to be a really good play this week. I mean, most weeks he is, but
can't argue that matchup.
And I think even Lockett, if you're, trying to fill your flex spot with a guy who has that high upside and big play potential, I think, it's a great matchup for him as well.
Absolutely. Lockett's a big boomer up last week to week, but I think this is the week where we could see a boom.
The thing about Lockett is I like him a lot. He does return kicks, though. So there's going to be some times in the game where he's not going to be in. It's going to be Jermaine Kearse, who did resign with Seattle. So I think, I'm not starting Kearse in any leagues or anything like that, but between Kearse and Lockett, I think those are both really good daily plays.
Yeah, I agree.
Just a touch up on, I know Miami doesn't really use their tight ends very much, but that is one area of the field where you can't expose that defense. So, I'm not saying start Jordan Cameron, but I'm saying keep an eye on him, see how he's utilized, because, it is a different offense that he's in, too.
Yeah, if you're looking for a bargain play in a daily format, maybe you could start Cameron just because of how vulnerable they've been to tight ends, but definitely in season-long league, I'm not touching Jordan Cameron in this one.
Absolutely not. No, I've heard pretty bad reports. But, yeah, I think that he's not a bad. If you're looking for a really bargain daily play, I think that he's a nice play.
Agree on both ends. We can move on now. We got another juicy matchup, Detroit at Indianapolis. I think that I'm definitely leaning towards Indianapolis on this game. Luck looked like he was looking closer to his 2014 form. I think that he's going to have a big game against his vulnerable Detroit defense. I'm liking T.Y. Hilton. I'm liking Moncrief. I'm even liking Dwayne Allen too.
Wow. I think this game has shootout potential written all over it, and I think that T.Y. Hilton's gonna draw some good coverage, but I like Dante Moncrief in this matchup. I think that he's a good bet to go off. He's a nice flex play this week. He's actually, honestly, I would put him if I have a 3 wide receiver set up in a fantasy league, I'd put him at that 3rd wide receiver spot too.
Yeah, I think if between him and Hilton, he's definitely the better bet to get a touchdown, and I could also see him, getting some more volume underneath, whereas Hilton might just be the big play guy. So I do like Moncrief.
Yeah, Moncrief had like like 5 touchdowns last year with Luckin, so I think that he's definitely the better bet for a touchdown. I think that Hilton, I know he's going to draw Darius Slay, who's a good enough corner in his own right, but I really like him going down the field is where I see him having success.
Yeah, we all know Luck has that chemistry with Hilton, so never count that out. But he is drawing the better of the backfield and from the Lions, so there's that to keep in mind. How do you guys see Frank Gore figuring into this game?
I think Frank Gore is going to have a great game. Well, I wouldn't say a great game, but I definitely think he's going to score a touchdown as well. I mean, the Lions' run defense isn't really that great, although they did build up their defensive line over the past couple seasons since they lost Sue. But I think Gore's a fine play. Maybe as a flex play, but I mean I like him there.
Yeah, he's a flex at best for me. The Lions' run defense did seem to get better over the second half of the season last year, and Frank Gore's, I don't know how old he is now. He's getting up there in age. But, because of the volume that he'll see and the fact that this could be a shootout, I think you could do a lot worse at a flex start.
Yeah, agreed. Definitely agreed.
I kind of want to see who's going to win that number 2 job for running back over there in Indianapolis. I think it's going to be Robert Turner, but I want to keep an eye on it in case you are a Frank Gore owner and he does go down. He's older. I mean, you got to see who's going to be that next man up.
Yeah, well, you said Dwayne Allen. I am still in. I don't trust him absolutely 100% at all. No, not even close. So how do you see Dwayne Allen figuring into the game plan, Johnny?
Well, I don't think he's going to be like a high volume tight end by any means. But the Lions were one of the worst teams at defending the tight end last year, and that's why I'm so high on Dwayne Allen this week.
Okay. I can dig it.
I mean, they gave up 12 touchdowns to the tight end position last year.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's pretty much what Dwayne Allen is. He's a touchdown dependent tight end. I think he can score a touchdown in this game.
Yeah. On the other side of the ball, I love this. I think this game has shootout potential written all over. Especially, I think the Lions offense can keep pace. I think I like Golden Tate and I like Marvin Jones as the start in this game. The Colts secondary right now is in shambles. How do you guys like these receivers from Detroit?
Oh, I love it. I'm confidently starting Marvin Jones as my wide receiver 2 in one league. I think Golden Tate is a good bet to have, maybe 8 catches, 90 yards and a touchdown, something like that sounds about right. And even Eric Ebron, depending on how healthy he is and how often he's used, decent bet for a touchdown. I think you nailed it calling it a shootout.
Yeah, I like Golden Tate as one of their possession receivers. I do think that Marvin Jones is probably the better bet for a touchdown. I'm a little iffy about Eric Ebron. I know he was practicing full this week, but I heard some things where he might be on a snap count. So, I mean, it's definitely something to look at. I kind of have him as a sit, though.
Yeah. I love personally. I'm out of the receivers. I think that I like Marvin Jones a little bit better. It's like you said. I'm starting him in one league too as my wide receiver too. So I love Marvin Jones. I think that he's a good bet to get 8 catches for however many yards and a touchdown. I think is what I have him at.
Now, what do you guys think about that backfield though in Detroit?
Oh man, I'm not real big on the backfield per se, but I think this game has Theo Riddick written all over it. To be honest, I think I have Theo Riddick as a go to play in your flex. That's how high I'm on him. I'm not so much high on Abdullah though. I think that he could actually probably lose a good amount of carries to Zach Zenner. To be honest.
Wow, that is a very bold statement for this game, but not without reason. I don't know if I like Zach Zenner this week, but I think I do agree with you on the Theo Riddick thing. I think that this has him written all over it. Matthew Stafford, he's not seeing anything downfield. He's going to dump it off to Theo Riddick, and he's going to do some damage.
Yeah, I agree with that. It seemed like Riddick was still heavily involved when Jim Bob Cooter took over at the end of last season. So, I can see this being a big Riddick game.
80 catches and 99 targets is not a bad thing at all. All right. So we're just going to move right along here. We got New York Giants going against Dallas at Dallas. How do you guys feel about Prescott in his first matchup against a defense that I think he could have some success against if he makes some smart decisions?
Yeah, well, this is a defense that, spent a lot of money in the offseason, so hard to say. We don't know what Giants defense we're looking at, but I think, and they're actually a sneaky defense play for me this week because, stream them against a rookie quarterback. So, I mean, I am in one league at least. I think that they're a sneaky 5% owned defense in a lot of season-long leagues. So, I don't know if I like Dak Prescott this week. I think that they're actually one of my streamer defenses, the New York defense, because we don't really know what we're seeing yet, but I like them.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's definitely a wait-and-see thing with Prescott, see how he handles an actual NFL regular season defense. I don't know if I'd go as far as starting the Giants defense just because I expect the Cowboys to have success running the ball with Elliott. But, if you're in a pinch and there's no better options.
Not only for this game, but I think for season long, I think that they're going to rely heavily on the run game. So I'm not as big on Dak Prescott as most people are. I think, though, Ezekiel Elliott could be a very good play this week, to be honest. I don't really think that the Giants' run defense is all that. And I could see maybe Alfred Morris getting like 7 or 8 carries. I think they're going to be closer to like 30 carries.
Yeah, that could pan out.
And I think if you have Dez Bryant, you're starting him obviously just because of the touchdown potential there. And in preseason, he looked back to the same old Dez Bryant from 2014 and 2013. So I think he can confidently be started, even if Dak Prescott isn't expected to have a big game overall. He'll probably lean on Dez Bryant.
Yeah, I think Dak Attack is good enough. I think Dak Attack is good enough to get the ball to Dez Bryant. Unlike the quarterbacks they had last year, I think that you shouldn't be as scared to start Dez this year.
Yeah, it's not the same as having Kellen Moore. I think that Dak Attack is, as you called him, I think he's good enough to do the job, and I think that you shouldn't be scared of playing Dez Bryant this week.
I mean, I think the player that probably takes the biggest hit now that Romo is out is Jason Witten. Obviously, they had a really good rapport together. And it remains to be seen with a rookie, although some rookies do tend to look for their veteran players. But I think that veteran player is going to be Dez and not Jason Witten.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I'm super low on Jason Witten with this Romo injury. I think the only time I even trust Witten as a tight end is when Romo's in. So, yeah, I don't like Witten at all.
Yeah, his floor is just way too low.
I agree with both. Let's go over to the other side of the ball. The New York Giants. I had an interesting conversation with my cab driver last night. I was talking about my parlays that I made, and I actually between Giants and Dallas, it's actually an even spread. So I went with the Giants because I think they have the better offense, and just happened to be that the cab driver was a Dallas Cowboy fan, and he almost kicked me out of the cab. That's how bad it got.
Jeez,
but
that's hilarious.
I think Eli will have a pretty good game against an underrated secondary in Dallas, but I'm not too worried about the matchup per se. I think that Beckham and Shepard could both have fine games. I actually got the Giants handily winning this game.
Yeah, I'm a Cowboys fan as well, but I expect the Giants to win this game. And Odell Beckham Jr., safe play, even though Scandrick's a good corner, but, if they move him around, he could burn Morris Claiborne, for a big play easily. And I do love Shepard, but I don't know that I love him enough to start him just yet until I see how often he's used in that same offense with ODB.
Yeah, Shepard's more of a flex play for me this week, but OBJ, I think that he's nearly matchup proof, or as matchup proof as he can get. So I think that you start him without question this week.
Yeah, I'd probably leave Shepard on the bench as well. I don't know if I really trust the tight end position over there in New York. So if you guys want to talk about the running backs, that's probably the more interesting play because, we've been hearing reports that Rashad Jennings is going to get more carries, but there's still 4 or 5 guys back there that he has to share the workload with.
Yeah, I think we've been there, done that with Rashad Jennings. I think if you did follow you in the draft, I think you were kind of just I guess I'll take him to the volume type of thing. So we all know my hatred of Rashad Jennings is well known because he knocked me out of the fucking playoffs last year. Anyways, I think that he has a decent enough game. I think that the Dallas defense is pretty suspect against the run. I think for me he's a flex at best, unless you really, really went with like the RB0 theory where you didn't draft a running back until like after 5 rounds. So if he is one of your running backs, then I think you have to start him. But from a team like mine, I think that he'd be like maybe a flex play.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think they can talk up giving him more carries all they want, but I kind of feel like I'll believe it when I see it. I'm just glad that Andre Williams is not in that backfield anymore. I guess that gives him the goal line role, but to me his floor is too low in this matchup to really confidently start it.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Definitely agreed.
Yeah, I'm not a big Rashad Jennings fan. I mean, I didn't get toasted by him in the playoffs. Sucks to suck, nerd. Yeah, but I'm not a big Rashad Jennings guy. I have him as a sit this week. Let's go over to New England at Arizona. I mean, it's starting to really look like Arizona should be able to handle this game. How do you guys have a take on this one?
Yeah, I love this game. I think that Arizona is poised to have a big game, even though they face a stout Patriots defense. I think the biggest conundrum actually is which wide receiver is going to see the most utilization. I think that John Brown's going to be a go for this game. But I like him and Floyd this game.
Yeah, I kind of got John Brown as a sit just because, I mean, that seems like that concussion kind of lingered. I like Michael Floyd in this game out of those 3, to be honest.
Yeah, I think Floyd, is a great upside play because he's got big play potential and also the red zone looks. But, yeah, you bring up a good point about John Brown's concussion. We don't know how in football shape he is. But it's worth noting that players like Hilton and, similar to John Brown's skill set have had success against this Patriots defense. So, I mean, as a flex, he could do worse.
I mean, I'm sure on a lot of teams out there, John Brown is like your 3rd or 4th receiver where you don't necessarily have to start him. But say, like, I could see him being a flex as well. But I'd rather take my chances on Michael Floyd this week. Obviously, Arizona doesn't use the tight end, so we can go over to the running back position. Obviously, David Johnson is going to be the lead dog. Seems like the Patriots' defense is about a little bit of middle of the pack overall. How do you see David Johnson having any success in this game?
I think he's as close to matchup proof as you can get as far as running backs. I love him. My love for David Johnson is well known as well. And
why don't you blow him?
Yeah. I think a lot of people love him too. And I think that I think he'll have a fine game. I think that this is a stout New England defense, especially against the run. But I think that he gets it done. He's my top 5 for the week. And there's just some special guys that come around and can get it done no matter what. So he's one of those guys for me.
Yeah, I agree. I love him in this matchup, especially since I think, with no Brady, no Gronk, the Patriots don't really have a chance to win this one. So I think the Cardinals will be playing from ahead. I think they'll want to kill a lot of clock. And you might could see David Johnson with that high volume of carries, busting at least one of them off for a big play.
Yeah. We all know he has that ability.
Yeah, as much as K-Mill's licking the shaft and the balls on this one, I do have David Johnson as my number 1 running back this week. I think he's going to be just fine. He's going to get 20 to 25 touches, so you got to love the volume. And like you guys are saying, it does seem like they're going to play from ahead, try to run the clock out. So that's why I have him at number 1 this week. Because, big news is Gronk is going to be sitting out week 1, so all the people that took Martellus Bennett are laughing at us now. So how do you like this New England offense without Tom Brady, without Gronk? Like, where do you think the production is going to come from?
This is very hard to say. Go ahead. I actually have no idea.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I think, if you have Edelman, you probably start him just because he's an underneath receiver, and Garoppolo is going to have to get rid of the ball quickly against this Cardinals pass rush. Bennett, I guess, if they get to the red zone, is your guy. So, I mean, for me, I really kind of want to stay away from all of them this week, but tough. Tough.
Yeah.
I think James White,
I'm not real big on Edelman. I mean, because he does have Grab-a-Ho thrown to him. I'm not real big on Edelman. I honestly, if you have someone better, I would play him instead of Julian Edelman, or even someone who has more upside too.
Yeah, I mean, I do like James White. I'm remembering now the game that Giovanni Bernard had against the Cardinals last year. I think, with the Patriots probably playing from behind, they'll have to pass a lot, and with Deion Lewis out, James White is probably the guy. Although, who knows? Belichick might surprise us and throw DJ Foster out there.
Yeah, that is actually one aspect of the game where you can hurt that defense is throwing to the backs out of the backfield. So, I mean, if you had to start one guy, especially if you're a guy that was a Deion Lewis owner, you could start James White, but, how the situation is with New England's backfield, it's always a guessing game. So I kind of always just try to stay away from that backfield unless you got someone that's in like a more defined role. But in dynasty settings, I do like Foster as a stash.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
All right. Is there anybody else you want to bring up in this game?
No, I think we kind of covered everybody.
All right. So we got we're down to like the Monday night games now. We got the Steelers on the road against Washington. Who do you like winning this game? I think it's a toss-up, to be honest. I think I'm leaning a little bit more towards the Steelers on the road, though, to be honest.
I don't know. This is a toss-up to me, too. I think that I like Washington a little bit more. It's very, very close. And I'm going to go for the upset because I think a lot of Steelers are a popular choice. But as far as fantasy purposes go, I think that the biggest start in this game is Jordan Reed. I think that he's going to be an absolute factor. Pittsburgh wasn't really good at defending the tight end position last year, and I think that Jordan Reed's going to go absolutely gangbusters this game.
Yeah, I agree. I could see him easily having 2 touchdowns and 100 yards just because, like you said, that Steelers defense did not defend the tight end well last year. And Kirk Cousins and Jordan Reed seem to have a real special connection.
I mean, as far as Kirk Cousins goes, these are the games he lives for, playing against a defense that's not elite and at home. So I think Kirk Cousins is definitely a go if you have him. I kind of like him this week. Obviously, I like Big Ben, Antonio Brown. I don't think we really have to touch on that too much. Who do you think is going to be that top receiver for Washington outside of Jordan Reed, though?
Well, to be honest, I like Deshaun Jackson in this game. This is a suspect Steelers secondary, like we were just kind of, briefly touching on. I think that D-Jax is able to snag a long one this game.
Yeah, I think if you have him and don't have 2 or 3 bona fide receivers also on your roster, you have to start him just for the big play upside this week.
It seems like for the past couple of seasons, Deshaun Jackson for me has been like a flex at best. I think people are kind of sleeping on him because he missed like half of last year with a hamstring injury. But I think this is a defense he can't exploit, especially obviously he's a fast motherfucker. He's going to get down the field. I'm not really sure who that number 2 receiver is going to even be. Is it going to be? It could even be Crowder for all we know, to be honest. So I think that's why obviously Deshaun Jackson is going to be that guy, I think.
Yeah, I'm not starting any of the other Redskins receivers at this point unless it's a really deep PPR league.
Agreed. Jesse James, do you think that he's going to have a good game? Obviously, he's going to be the starter. I think he's kind of like a blah play at most.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any format I'd start him.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Me and John actually have a friend that is adamant about starting him. He's actually starting him over Delaney Walker this week, which I think is absolutely insane.
Well, it's kind of my fault. I told him to do it.
What?
Well, he's an idiot. He's an idiot. He's so dumb. Anyways, I think that Jesse James is maybe. I think that he's absolutely touchdown dependent this week, and I don't even know if he'll do that. Pittsburgh doesn't really utilize the tight end position like a lot of teams do, and I think that he's more of a non-factor to me than anything. However, this Washington backfield, it sounds like Matt Jones might not even start. Is there anything even worth mentioning there?
I really wouldn't feel comfortable starting Rob Kelly. I kind of want to just not start anyone on that backfield, to be honest.
Agreed. Definitely agree.
All right.
What about D'Angelo Williams? Just briefly touch on it. I think that in all formats it's a must start this week. I think you guys would agree.
I got him as a top 10 play. So.
Yep.
All right. Last but not least, we have the Shit Bowl. We got the Rams on the road against the 49ers. Why they would schedule this as a Monday night, I don't know. Who do you like in this game? Like, as far as winning the game? Think the 49ers could actually be 1-0?
You know what? This is a very sneaky game to me, and I think we were talking about this in length the other day, Johnny. But I think I'm going back and forth in this game. I think I like maybe the Rams a little bit better, just because Todd Gurley has that big play upside, and I don't trust anybody on that 49ers team. So it's a tough call, really. It is. It's just I think that the only player really worth mentioning is Todd Gurley.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Rams should win this one, but with Jeff Fisher at the helm, you never know.
Yeah.
But, yeah, definitely don't want to touch anybody on the 49ers right now. Even Carlos Hyde, who I like, and Vance McDonald, that team looks like it's going to be so bad.
Yeah.
You know, I know Carlos Hyde was already dealing with an injury. I mean, maybe Sean Drone, the fucking journeyman dude, can have some success catching some balls out of the backfield. But other than that, yeah, Gurley's the only guy I really want to start in this game. I'm not feeling Torrey Smith yet. Obviously, I don't want to go with Gabbert. Case Keenum's not scaring anybody. It's gonna be the Gurley show. Even if they stack the box against him, I think he's gonna have some success.
Yep, absolutely. All it takes is one run to make his day, and then if they get to the red zone, it's going to be the Gurley show for sure.
Yeah.
All right.
I think that we can just leave it on that.
Yeah, the Shit Bowl is exactly what it is, the Shit Bowl. So is there anything else either of you guys want to mention, any shout-outs?
Hi, Mom. No, just kidding.
No, I'm just really excited. Football's back, obviously. If you have a chance, check out the First and Five Fantasy Football Podcast. But, it was a pleasure being on the show with you guys. And I enjoyed all your little nicknames for, like, Tannehill and, what was it, Grabaho for Garoppolo?
Yeah, Grabaho, yeah. Yeah, we wanted to do that. We throw those in there.
We
but yeah,
like to have fun.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. We appreciate what you do. And we definitely would like you to come on again at some point if you would like to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what the Fantasy Football Network is about, man. Connections. Please, guys, follow David Evans on Twitter at EvansNFL. It's a good follow. He always puts out some good products.
Thank you.
All right, so that will do it for today's show. Obviously, follow us as well, Fifth Down FF. Subscribe and review us on iTunes, please. Yeah, that'll do it. Peace out, Fifth Downers.